Hey guys, welcome back to the show. I know it's been a long time. I've been on the road for about 4.5 months from June 1st through the end of October. So I apologize for being gone, but there's been a lot of work that I really had to attend to and a lot of research that I didn't have time to do 2022 on my 100-day trip. This one turned out to be more than that. I didn't really plan that necessarily to be that long, but I kind of got towards the end and I wasn't done. So if we have a little bit of time, I'll tell you guys more about that. But I want to jump into the show and introduce you to my guest, my friend Forrest Little. And Forrest and I have known each other for a long time, actually. I think about 15 years, 15 or 6, probably 16 years, actually. So, we have a solid friendship, and he's still to this. I meet new people all the time, but he's still at the very top of the most creative people I've ever met in my life. So that's a big compliment to Forrest. In any case, he has a new business venture he wants to talk about, and then we're going to kind of go into the topic of creativity, and I'm going to do it a little different this time. Everything really at the end of the day is spiritual to me, and I think a lot of people in the field. But this one, I'm really interested in helping people to find their gifts and also to support people in whatever gift they have. And that's a really big thing for me because, these days I feel like it's a little bit hard to find sometimes, especially in some of the more like mainstream education platforms and things. But I really want people to feel supported. And if you're good at something, and even if you're not good at something, you just love doing it, it's all valid, and whatever brings you that happiness and the fulfillment. And, of course, my rule, as long as you're not hurting people, that's really all I have to say about limitations. So, and that goes, for physically, but also mentally, spiritually. You want to make sure that you got your heart centered. So, in any case, Forrest's his business is called Tiger Stories. It's really under his name. You can find him online. I'll give you that stuff later. Actually, I can probably give that to you now. I'll do that really quickly before and after too, but I'm going to post it underneath the video as well. So if you want to find Forrest, it's https://Forrest FORREST Little LITTLE .wixsite WIXSITE.com/my site. And then also Forrest is on Instagram under Forrest Little 89. And he's on Facebook too. You can find him through my page, because my Facebook page, because we're friends on Facebook as well. And he's got all of his contact info up there. So anything that you guys might need, if you want to reach out to him, that's going to be easy to do. And so we're going to be talking about independent story coaching, and I'll let Forrest take it from there.
Awesome. Really great to be here. Thank you so much, Dave, for having me on. This has been a long time coming. Yeah, Dave's like my oldest friend at this point. Is really neat that we are able to talk whenever that comes up. I mean, we are very good at talking in this way, but we don't usually use the video. So it's even just a time of enjoying each other's company over video. Anyway, so I'm offering this service called Tiger Stories. It's, as Dave said, it's independent story coaching, and I'm coming at this from a background in philosophy and psychology and training in energy medicine and intuitive studies. And essentially how I got here is I started recording myself talk, and I started with this little pocket audio recorder as well as my phone, and then I got into doing video recording, and then I threw in the note cards, and I got note cards. This one says creativity is movement, and I drew a flower. And what I ended up realizing is that I needed to be making something more substantial than just what I was writing on my note cards in order to gain traction in life. And I've been doing my best to figure out how to be of service to the world in a way that incorporates my training in undergraduate level counseling psychology. And I guess you would rightly see this as a type of life coaching, but I'm calling it Tiger Stories. Let's start with the name. It's in part because the stories that we have can get in our way if they're all tangled up, and they can come at us like tigers. So we can have this relationship with untangling our stories that involves taking them very seriously. And I think it really helps to make records. And then as you go along with your recordings, as you're learning about yourself, you're befriending yourself. You're using these tools, and if you want to use your phone, there I think that digital technology has often been known as one of the influences in our contemporary era that's really divided us. And at the same time, we can use these technologies to deepen our relationship with ourselves. And so going from the storytelling to engaging in making items that we can see in our immediate environment. I did this a few months ago outside, and it's a representation of flow, and it was actually a really spontaneous piece of art that I did with the offcuts of the wood I had left over. I was making a little free library, and that's out front. But yeah, just I had the offcuts, and I was outside one morning, and I was like, oh, I got the screw gun here. I got the wood. Let's just do it, right? So I think that really gets into my view on creativity, is that creativity is movement. It's like you have to be doing something, whether it's talking, walking, writing, and that's it sounds deceptively simple, but I think a lot of people need the reminder that you just have to like if you want to be more creative, pick up a pen and paper and start moving the tip of the pen over the paper, right? Or if you want to be practicing talking, turn this thing on and start talking, right? And from there, I think it's really interested to, or it's really interesting to start talking about the different types of medium that we can be being creative with. But that's probably a pretty good intro, I think.
Yeah, how about that index storage container, Forrest? Tell them about. You got that with you?
I do
This
right
is
here.
probably one of my favorite. Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts. So
It's
we had me
it's.
and
Go ahead.
I was gonna say me and Forrest had a conversation when I think the day you got that. Actually, I'm sure we talked, right? And he comes, he gets back home with this thing, and I'm looking at it. He said, "Look what I found today. It's, what, like $1.50 or $2 at like the hardware store or something." And he was showing me that you can put the index cards inside of this carrying case, actually. So it's like essentially one of these mini briefcase portfolio style things you might keep your paper in. I have a full size one with all my papers. But in
Right.
any case, it's absolutely genius. I've never thought of this ever in my lifetime, and that's consistently what happens when I talk with Forrest. Is that there's every single conversation we have is something I've never thought of before. I'm not saying I don't, of course, I don't do everything, but for me to see something for the first time, the amount of reading and research that I do on a constant daily basis is exciting for me. And also, I have to say, and technology these days, I really, I don't even know how long my phone calls will be on without being kicked off. My video calls, like I don't even know if people get my emails half the time. So I actually don't even really trust the digital world anymore. And we're supposed to be able to rely on it. And I'm not the only one. And I've been on other podcasts and it's been interrupted and people get kicked off and stuff. And of course, my thought is, what is the use of technology if we can't count on it? Because that's the whole point. It's supposed to make it easier, and like Forrest saying, is give it more flow. And yet, I'm probably a good half the time for me now. I'll get kicked off of my technology. And also, Forrest, I think I told you about this before, but sometimes I'll go to sleep because I just have to get some sleep, and I have like about 10 to 20 tabs open on my browser for my internet because I'm like, oh yeah, I'll get to that in the morning, and like it's pitch black in my room, and I don't want to turn my light on because normally I would probably think about writing it down, and then guess what happens in the morning? Well, my phone decides to literally make all the pages disappear. No explanation, doesn't even make sense why. I mean, we can go into that later maybe. I believe it has to do with the AI technology and quantum physics and the stuff that's going on with the Earth grid right now. But in any case, I've literally lost, I can't tell you how much stuff. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just get it in the morning. And then I don't even remember what I had open on my phone. And then I'm pretty upset about it because it was important. I don't bookmark things unless I need it. So with what Forrest is saying, I mean, you can be like literally anywhere, out anywhere. I know Forrest goes on lots of walks. Maybe he'll talk. I hope Forrest talks about that too because it's really phenomenal in all kinds of weather. And if you're out on a walk and you don't have your technology with you, or you do, but your phone's off, just like, I just had an idea. And then since it's portable and it's protected, you just take the index cards out of your pocket, and they're not loose index cards. They're in a protective case, which is like $2. And you just take one out and you just whatever. And even, or if you want to like, just to draw a little bit, Forrest draws as well, put your ideas down. And then eventually when you get home, unless you lose the thing in your pocket, I think more likely you're going to have that than have it on your phone and then have it disappear like it consistently happens for me.
Totally. Yeah. And just, it's so simple. It's like, I just love it because I don't need to think about it. It's there. Grab the pen. The worst thing is keeping track of pens.
Yeah.
But and then another really interesting thing about index cards is that if you use this method of documenting your process, you're gonna fill this up with writing, and then all these are going to go somewhere else, and they're going to be floating around your life. So it doesn't end with this. You have to have some way to organize them, go through them, review them, because you could very easily lose the card that was really important to you eventually, and it'll be on your floor somewhere or in a drawer, right? Or it'll get taken by your pet or whatever. But yeah, I love index cards. It's actually, it sounds silly, but index cards is a topic that I'm like one of the topics I'm most passionate about because they just work. I really love journaling with index cards more than journaling with a bound journal because you always have a fresh piece of paper. And
I mean, there's something to that idea too, Forrest, isn't there? When you have a clean slate, figuratively and literally.
Right. And I've found when I was doing a lot of journaling, I would prefer the 500-page journals, and I'd get 3, well, either a third of the way through them or whatever, and I want to rip them in half to get rid of what I was associating with at the time. So yeah, it's note cards. I think are one of well, to me, it's a wonderful example of a concept I like to refer to, which is ubiquitous media. And the word ubiquitous, it just means commonly available, plentiful, and cheap, right? So you have no excuse. Like you you can't pretend you can't journal because you don't have a nice journal, right? The index cards, they cost like $1.50, and when you need more, they're available everywhere, right?
Oh
So
yeah, yeah. My Oak Island journal, of course. I mean, you know all about Oak Island Forest. We talk about it, or I talk about it somewhat frequently. And for people who don't know, I was involved with the Curse of Oak Island show in 2017, and they didn't air my segment. I went back in 2018, did a little bit more work as well. But I still have that journal, and when you talk about the journals, it's one of the spiral ones, the kind of the big coils though, not the small coils.
yeah,
And that literally, it was left over in my house from when I was like in eighth grade, I think. And I'm not in the house anymore, but my childhood home, it was sitting in the closet. And when I was organizing my thoughts and kind of, I'd love to get into this more in a minute too, but in terms of decluttering your head, getting stuff out of the way so that you can have that creative flow coming in. Because I agree 100%. If I don't have like a clear path, and even the clean index card is a good corollary for that, then I can't be creative in the way that I need to. I'm not operating at the highest level. In any case, so when I was going through all my stuff a long time ago, kind of the very beginning of cleaning things out in my life and organizing myself, I found this journal and I said, well, like actually, I didn't want to see it go to waste, and I knew that everyone else would probably throw it away. So I took it up to my room, and I don't think I even used it for 5 years. And then when 2017 or 2016 comes around, and I started taking notes for every episode of the Curse of Oak Island, I actually started at the beginning and it had not been used actually at all. It is
yeah,
kind of bulky, but I'm like, in this case, I wanted to make use of something that was otherwise going to be thrown away, and I still have it. I just wrote in it last night, and I still haven't filled it up
cool.
because I only write the things down that I really need. And I just started last week, Forrest. I think we talked about this last week. No, excuse me, like about 2, 3 weeks ago. I finally started to write down things that I've always, because I learn new stuff every day, but I always tell myself, oh, yeah, you're going to remember this, Dave. It's way too important not to remember this. But man, there's so much stuff, though, that specifically for things that I haven't come across a lot, I will write it down. I usually write it in shorthand, and I'm probably the only person who would be able to interpret what I wrote. It's legible, but it's not
Yeah,
like sentences, so you wouldn't know unless you were me what I'm talking about. I'm not doing that to encode it. I'm just doing that because I'm trying to be brief, and
yeah,
I know I will remember that part when I see what I wrote. So
right.
there's a lot of good ways to do this, and certainly the index cards is one of my favorite ideas I've ever heard, and I've seen them firsthand, and I've it's always different. You come back with a different thing, and you show me what you drew on it or what words you put on it.
Right.
But anyway, if you'd like to add to any more to that, Forrest, and tell people about what they could expect too if they contacted you and they wanted to book a service with you.
Yeah, if you contact me, we'll start out with a conversation, and I'd like to know a little about what you're working on and where you're coming from, and we could talk for like a half hour and figure out whether we want to be working together. I have a lot of videos up, and I have a lot of podcasts up on my Substack account, and that would be a great way for anybody to familiarize themselves with what I talk about, what I'm interested in. And but yeah, if you're at all inclined to call me up, just call me up. I prefer a call just because I think for something as specific as approaching somebody to talk about independent story coaching, I think it's great to have a baseline of how you present yourself in speech, right? And whereas with email, it 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 can like it just it can cause more confusion than is necessary in a moment where I'm just interested in hearing a little about where you're at and why you wanted to contact me. So yeah, call me up if you're interested. And yeah, in terms of anything adding to what you were just saying, I one of the things that jumped out at me, you're talking about how it's the records you make are only really discernible to you, and you're not even trying to like encode it.
Yeah,
And
right. I
I,
could, but that's not why.
but like, I think that's a really cool spot to be in the creative process. Also, is like you can encode stuff if you want, depending on the subject, right? But what I'm really excited about, like the overall theme that I'm really excited about is encouraging people to be honest about their lives in private. And if it takes being able to encode it, or like maybe you're gonna take your pen and take your paper and do that, and that's all it is, but it reminds you of what you're being honest about in private. That's enough, right? And really, I think where we're at right now in our culture is that people don't understand honesty and the place of honesty. And I think a lot of people preemptively, they want to put all their honesty up in public, and they want to put it on social media, they want to put it on their friends, they want to put it on their family. And we have these wonderful tools, the digital audio recorder and video and pen and paper, or any kind of art you want to make, to keep your own counsel and befriend yourself. And a lot of people talk about like, oh, I wish I had somebody to listen to me. Well, first person who that has to be is you, right? So
And
that
it's not often. Of course, it's not often like you're saying is that you actually. Well, for you it is, but
right,
most people probably don't really ever even hear themselves talk. And if you hear it coming from not directly from your mouth, but from what you said before, and then you're like, "Wow, I can't believe I'm that negative" or something. It's like I really need to change that. You can't actually can't hear that yourself sometimes. You need to hear it from a separate source.
right. It you get this, you get distance, right? And it's I didn't know how much it would change me before I started it. And I've done 3,000 hours of just the audio and video recording, just the hours between pressing record and stop. Because it's so enjoyable, because it's like spending time with a friend. You're spending time with yourself, and you're your friend, right? And so it turns into this self-reinforcing good habit. I will say, if you're somebody who's sensitive to EMF, or you find that even you keep talking or writing but not take but you're not taking action, like that can be a problem also. Like you can you can overuse any tool, right? And you can also misuse any tool. This is why I so much focus on befriending yourself, because you could use these tools to beat yourself over the head for the rest of your life and tell awful stories and not like yourself, right? And so I think if you don't like yourself, I think it's really useful to have an intellectual understanding that it would be useful if you did, and then be curious about what that would be like, right? And I mean, it's a pretty tough world right now, and a lot can get in our way, and it's easy to get feeling real negative. And I think it another thing why I'm so excited about the digital recording is that people in this era are really in the habit of spending a lot of time with their phone. And when we're watching YouTube videos or listening to podcasts or whatever, we're being affected by that content. And we have the ability to use these tools to affect ourselves and like program ourselves, right? Like it might sound weird, but you can be really intentional about coming up with a really interesting story about your life that's true, and you figured out what you wanted to be doing with your life, and then you do it. And then the trouble there is that nobody really gets you. That they don't understand the change that has occurred. And you might start talking to people in your life about about the inner changes that come up in your process, and then they end up offering you like really awful advice. Right? And so I think that's one of the purposes that I'm offering in terms of independent story coaching, is somebody who understands that you're engaged in really important work that not a lot of people in your life are probably going to understand. And that's where I'm coming from, is I have no interest in telling you what to do. I'm just really excited about all these tools and reasoning about the pros and cons and pitfalls of using all these tools. So anyway, what else?
Oh man, that's just fantastic. Well, I was going to say too that I think here's a very, very interesting idea, is that, the stuff that I do, I would consider myself an expert in my field. My field. However, there's plenty of stuff I literally know absolutely nothing about. And if you put me out there with the tools and say, fix this, I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I have no idea what I'm doing. And in that respect, there's two things I want to say. First of all, I have a lot of respect for the people who can do the things that I can't do. And I feel that about everyone, really. And I see people being successful and doing what's in their heart to find fulfillment and all this stuff. And if you're lucky and I guess you play your cards right, you can have that as a career, which is amazing. Not a lot of us get to say that, but the thing is that, see, I believe, and I think you're probably going to agree with me, Forrest, because I know you, but when you have a clear mind, the first thing, in my opinion, that needs to happen before anything, any high pursuit, especially of any kind of a spiritual learning happens, is that you have to clear your thoughts out of your own way. And all the stuff that you don't need needs to be swept aside. And you need to clear the slate so that when you do start stepping forward, you literally have a path that's already been laid out for you. And then it's blank and it's clean, and then you can think and process correctly. Now, when you have that state in your own head and in your own life, then when someone talks to you about something they love doing, or they're trying to explain to you why this is important to them, you can actually grapple with that, and you can actually like interact with that story. Now, what I find, unfortunately, and I agree with Forrest, we live in a very difficult time right now. A lot of the food is synthetic. We've got cell phone towers everywhere and EMF everywhere. And, you know, I'm not going to even go into Western medicine because some people already know what I think about that. But the thing is that what you can do is you can try to make yourself receptive to other humans in just in terms of interacting. And if someone starts talking to me about cars, oh, I love to like fix cars and stuff. Like I have no interest in doing that, really, actually, ever. But when I see a good product and I see someone who did a good job, I compliment them, I congratulate them, I say thank you for being a positive influence in this arena of life, and I love looking at your work. It looks fantastic. And if they want to tell me a story for an hour about how, oh, like I absolutely love fixing cars and I just got a new Porsche and I'm fixing this up, or your Lamborghini or whatever you're doing, I'm actually going to be interested in it, and I'll be able to think about it. And guess what? You never know what you're going to pull out of that on not if not a daily basis, on at least a weekly basis. When I watch a show or I'm reading a book, I might go 3 days with it's actually not that long because I'm always finding something, but I might go literally 40 or 50 pages without taking anything that I need. And then the last page has exactly what I need, and it's one sentence. And if I didn't have that, I would be like crushed, absolutely crushed if I hadn't seen that. So what I do is I follow the imperatives from the universe. You know, my statement that I make is everything for the benefit of humanity, and including my best interest without hurting other people in any way that's possible. That's my prayer, my daily prayer to the universe. And so I'm basically given what I need at the right time because I have a clean heart and I'm doing it for the right reasons. And
Yeah.
if I get a little, you know, it's like it's not a cell phone thing. Obviously, it's more like an analog, high level spiritual ping that someone wants to send me something. There's divine communication that's coming in, and it says just basically, I know you don't want to listen to this person for 3 hours, but please, like, you really need to hear what they're going to say. So I put the podcast on, what I was being suggested to do, and then 2 hours 45 minutes in, and I'm struggling the whole way for it. And I'm like, I can't take this stuff anymore. Maybe I don't like their style. Maybe they're being inappropriate. Whatever it is. I get to the 2 hour 45 minute mark, and I basically say, "Wow, I really needed that," and now I know why I was guided to that spot. So to be able to hear that up here too, you have to have this clear. In fact, in my opinion, all good things come from when you have your mind clear. You've cleared yourself from your own, pesky thoughts. You're supporting yourself, and then you're pursuing your passions.
Where I'd go with what you're saying is, I find the best way for me to have a clear mind is to be out in nature.
Oh, absolutely.
And I focus in my life a lot on all the ways I touch nature, especially barefoot walking. I'm actually barefoot right now in the grass outside, and
What's the temperature for us? Give us a temperature.
40 something. It actually, yeah,
Uh,
it's actually sprinkling, but yeah, it's so for me, the walking, the right left, that helps synchronize my physiology enough to have a clear mind, whether I'm barefooted or not. But I think that leaving the shoes behind really helps me. And and then you were talking about doing research and being guided to look at certain information, and then it's annoying until you find the gems. And that's really the main reason why I got into storytelling independently, is I was doing a lot of research, gathering a lot of information about what fascinated me, and I needed a way to keep it integrated into my life. And so I might watch a YouTube video or read a book, and then I'll do a little audio recording talking about it. And I might like wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and oh, I gotta do an audio recording, and then I do right. And but yeah, it's we're living in this era in which there's overabundance of information, and we got to cope with that reality.
Oh
And
yeah, it's tough for me too, man. Just to decide like what am I gonna watch. I just don't have time. I hate it. I hate it.
right, well, and
I want to
then
watch every single thing you send me, Forrest, from the beginning to the end, but I can't. Just like,
I
you
know
know,
so
other
I hate
people.
stuff.
Yeah.
Right. I know, and like I any more these days, stuff people send me, I mean, I'll be appreciative they thought about me and wanted to offer me something to look at, but I, I don't have time, right? You know, and then I think for a lot of people in our era, you spend a lot of time all at once, maybe a few years looking at like everything there is to know on the internet, right? And then you like you know enough that nothing really surprises you anymore, and and I think that's a great time in which to get really clear about what your own story is. It's like you can learn about all these crazy things going on in the world, but you got to figure out how you fit into it.
Oh, definitely. And then for me too, of course, is about what action you can take. And, you know, I mean, me and Forrest are both big time about action. And I'm not going to go into specific astrology, but we believe me, we both have that big time in our
Yeah,
charts. And but however, you know, if someone's going to accuse me of that, you know, people don't accuse me of that. Oh, Dave, yeah, you have that support in your chart. Okay, well, but here's the other thing. Yeah, I mean, that's true, I do, and I'm thankful for that. But if you don't take action, nothing happens, regardless of what you have in your chart. You know, so like it doesn't even in some ways matter because in my opinion, the answer is always action of some sort, and it doesn't have to be physical action. It doesn't have to be you start a new project. It could even be like, I need to put this meditation on right now, and I'm going to lay on the floor for 45 minutes and try to clear my head. That's action as well, you know.
right.
But it's a little bit, it's subdued in some ways, but it's actually you're saying, I want to do this, and then you do it. That's it. And also, what I really try to be careful about, this one really gets me sometimes, is like, you know, you don't have to do everything that's on your mind. But if you tell someone, if you're consistently telling people, oh, yeah, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this, and you never do that, that's really, it's not good for credibility. I'm just going to put that out there for people. People
Right.
want to see consistency with people, whoever you are. And we want to see that kind of that you know what you're doing and you're moving towards becoming a better person, working towards becoming who you actually are, getting the stuff out of the way. We all have work to do in that arena, you know. But if you're gonna like do something, try to make it happen for yourself. Really, you know. And it might take a few days or even a few months or years or whatever. But the I have another friend. I tell her this all the time. Like the first step to becoming better or to taking positive action is that you really have to identify what the issue even is. Do I
Yeah.
like first of all, do I have an issue? And if you do, that's action number one. You have to be honest about, yeah, I have an issue. And number two, it's that's not enough. You have to identify what that issue is. And then
Yeah.
after that, then you need a good solution. And so it, like you said, for us, it's actually not as it's not as obvious as what some people might think about when we talk about creativity and talk about clearing the path for yourself and being kind to yourself. It actually does take some skill, you know, and it takes a while to I think develop that. So one of the things I'm really excited about talking with Forrest is that, um, we both have a clear idea of what we're doing, what direction we're moving, and yeah, things might change a little bit on a daily basis, but it's not that much. It's small things changing. It's not the bigger picture about what we're trying to accomplish. And I'm excited for people to see what a clear head looks like, what a clear stream of consciousness looks like, what a clear conversation looks like. If I have a question, I'm just going to point blank ask, is this what you mean by this, Forrest? Is this what you mean by this? And if he says no, I'm not going to be offended. Forrest
Right.
is not trying to offend. If Forrest disagrees with me, I know he's not trying to offend me. He's one of my best friends.
Right.
And
Yeah.
sometimes he's actually trying to help me so that I don't do something stupider, and vice versa. So it's
Right.
being open to sharing ideas, and also to realizing that, especially your friends, and if it's a true friend and it's tried and true for many years, they're not trying to offend you or hurt you. They're just being like, I see it this way. I just don't. I think maybe you didn't see that, or if you did, I just want to bring it up. That's it. I'm not offended. We're good. And actually, I appreciate that.
Right. I just want to jump in real quick. There were three things that came to my mind. One was you're taking action. I think I've been guilty of feeling like my action needs to involve other people. And there's this word called, I mean, it's a whole world called metanoia. It's interchange, metanoia. And I saw it in I think it was a book written by Nietzsche recently. But the idea of metanoia is that the true change happens within. And so if you're not vibrating in a particular way, you're not going to attract the opportunity, right? And then so from there, in order to get there, you got to tell the story, and you got to be honest and private. The second thing I wanted to wanted to mention was, I think oftentimes we like tell people our plans preemptively, and we're like not ready to take action on them. And that's a good use of private storytelling, is you can make the record and keep it to yourself and have that as a vessel to work on your plans and develop your plans. And then it's like not so humiliating when you keep talking about the same plan that you never do, right? It's so you
Unless it's
can,
someone you really, really trust and they don't care. They love you no matter what.
I think it's wonderful to have people in your life that you can be honest with. Not everybody has that, but if you do, cool, right? But just that it can be this like laboratory, this private laboratory that you can, I think is especially if you're making a record that's specific, then it makes you be honest about it because it's right there. You wrote it or you said it in a particular way. And I'm the I forget what the last thing you were just talking about. Oh,
What about you? Tell your friend.
what was that?
Well, you can tell your friend. If
Oh yes, yeah. Well, yeah. Even before that, the third thing I wanted to mention was in terms of what a clear mind looks like. I've found that
it's
specifically
very
with,
rare.
yeah, it is very rare, and specifically with doing audio and video recording. Initially, when I started doing this kind of work with myself, I would be telling a story, and it would be maybe an hour and a half recording, and I'd press stop and start listening to it back, and I get to a moment in the playback in which I am hearing myself totally lose my train of thought and no, I didn't realize. It's like I wasn't even aware that I went on, a tangent that didn't get back to the point. And so,
Well, and this,
yeah,
I was gonna say, especially if you really know you need to like accomplish something, then that's probably not ideal.
yeah. So
If we're just having like a stream of consciousness, it doesn't really matter. Because sometimes for us, like we start out with a topic and then we never get back to it, and then
right,
but neither of us even remember what it was. But we usually a couple months later we'll come back to it.
yeah, yeah. Well, and that's all fun and games between friends, and if you're doing this work with yourself, it can also be really funny. And I was amazed how often that was happening. But it's like, I think these really are, at least I know they have been in my own life, ways to train my mind so that I can follow a train of thought and have it's not just a train, it's a tree. It's I can go out on a branch, out on a limb, get into the leaves, and then come back to the main trunk. And if you've never practiced it, if maybe you didn't grow up in I'm gonna unplug this because it told me to unplug it anyway. If you didn't grow up in a culture that encouraged storytelling, if you didn't get to do a lot of that as a kid, you might not be able to do that very well, but you can practice it. So
Yeah, absolutely, man. To your point about not basically not trying to change other people or feeling like you have to change the world, whatever. Man, like that's a huge lesson. And I mean, I tried that for probably 10 years before I stopped trying that because I thought that surely with the type of information that I had and the clarity and the cohesiveness, oh, surely some people would start to jump on the bandwagon. They would see, well, no, not really. And it's actually, I'm not shocked anymore. I was shocked in the beginning because I'm the kind of person, if you put something in front of me in a very clear fashion, I'm going to know, oh, yeah, he's like really close or she's really close. And like, I feel that's correct. And I will start supporting them and stuff like this. But that's only given you have a clear mind and that you have you're out of the way of yourself and you also know what you're doing and you know what your directive is. Otherwise, you're probably gonna miss the point. But even to this day, the statement that I make, I really don't care if there's 100,000 people on my page or if there's 60 people that watch my show, because first of all, I'm doing the things the way that I know is correct to do them for me. Through the guidance that I've given on a daily basis about how to do it, how to proceed, timing, what the topics are, all this stuff. And it's very important to pay attention to that, especially if you're in the heart space while you're getting that information. And then number two is the fact that I fully believe that the people who are ready for this kind of information will somehow, and in some instances even, I would say like magically, end up on my page. And I've seen that happen with myself many times, is that I'm like, how did I get this in front of me? And I don't even remember, to this day, I don't remember who sent it to me or why it popped up on my feed or how I started down this particular rabbit hole or whatever. It doesn't even matter. All that matters and all I'm appreciative for is that I saw it. And that also includes people, like human interaction. Some of the people, even though some of the people I've met recently, actually, I just told them after probably the first conversation, I'm so appreciative that we found each other for whatever reason that is, because I need that positive influence in my life. And to be like, I'm very vocal about my support for other people. I like to hear verbally that someone's, if you think something, you're doing a good job, or you think it was a cool idea, tell the person. They're going to feel great about that, guys, and also people are going to be doing that more for you. We have to support each other. And, one of the things that me and Forrest talk about a lot too, and I bring it up all the time, is that I don't care if there's two people who like what me and Forrest do. If it's me and Forrest, we both had a great time. We did what we knew we had to do, and we're appreciative for it. I know that's not the case, but a lot of times when people are just looking at numbers, I had someone ask me, I don't know when it was. I don't even remember who it was. And I said, yeah, I've got a YouTube channel if you want to check it out. I do all kinds of ancient spirituality. We do astrology. I do, principles of Eastern medicine, all kinds of mystical topics. And the only thing they cared about is how many subscribers I had on my page. And I'm not saying, I don't care. Ask me whatever question you want. I'm an open book. But the point is that there's really, to be quite honest, there's really no direct correlation between that at all and good quality information. Like literally almost zero correlation that I come up with. So we got to continue to do what's in our hearts and what we know is correct. And the last thing I want to say about that too, Forrest, is that this is probably one of the things that's most irritating to me in human interactions that I have. It does not happen a lot. In fact, it rarely happens ever anymore, because I decide who I interact with. And if someone I feel like is out of bounds, I'm just going to tell them. I'm like, yeah, we're not going to do that. And dude, it's called self-respect, and it's also called I'm not going to put myself in a situation when I know something that's negative is going to be repeated. And if you say that to someone's face, they can't ever say, well, you didn't tell me. Yeah, I did tell you. So when people assume that they're like, well, if you said, oh, I want to get into education, or I want to go back to college, and like a year goes by and they're like, man, what, you should have enrolled last year, you should have enrolled last spring semester, fall semester, without asking you or considering up here. What is this telling me to do up here? Because in my opinion, that's the most important part of this whole thing. And even if I believe in multiplicity of lifetimes, I believe you do work, you start work, maybe you don't finish, but you're going to continue. That's what's in your heart. Maybe to be in a different body. Maybe it'll be in a different country. I don't know. But it's not a good thing to assume that about people is, oh, they should have done that. You don't know they should have done that when they were thinking about it. And I'm actually, I take it as a compliment that people would even share things that they're interested in with me. And they trust that I'm not going to shatter them or bash them down. No, I support anything that's positive. I don't literally do not care what it is. It could be, in fact, I love ballet. There's a good example. Would I ever do it myself? No. I mean, I don't even think I don't, especially at this point in my life, I don't have the physical ability to do that. I'll just be quite honest with myself and with the world. But I love watching it. I love walking through art galleries. I can't paint. I can't draw. But when I see it, I get so excited for that person. I'm like, man, you changed my life today. And I tell them that. We got to start doing that,
Right. And there's a lot that came up. I don't even remember all of what I wanted, but I would say one of the things that came up in my pre-writing was this idea that everybody's creative and everybody needs to be creative in order to attend to their life. And you might not be a ballet dancer and you might not be a painter or whatever, but do something. And it can be a liability to talk with a creative professional about what you're doing. If you're not a creative professional, you're just engaging in creativity because you have to, because you're a competent adult who needs to make solutions in your life, right? you it I've found, like, I don't really like I'm not a dancer, right? Like I'm not gonna talk to someone who does ballet about dance, right? Because if I dance, it's gonna be in private for me, right? Or right, or with drawing, like, I draw a lot of stick figures, you know? And I might show them with some people, but I'm not going to show them with the people who are my friends, who really do mean well, who would love to see me become a more talented visual artist. And I don't care about that. I'm caring about the meaning. I'm getting from that act of holding my hand on the page and that moment of discovery. I didn't know I'd draw that. And for a
Yeah,
lot
you
of,
don't even know. Yeah, exactly, man. You don't even
exactly,
know.
right. And I think for a lot of creative professionals, they're really stressed out about whether it looks good or whether it sounds good or how many Instagram followers you have or whatever. And I will say, well, this is one of the things I meant to say earlier is um I think there's a lot more people that see our stuff than gets registered on the views. And and on top of that, if you're putting your stuff out there or even making something creatively and keeping it to yourself and it's honest, that's gonna like tune your reality. Like it's having a resonant effect that changes the world. And
It
it
does
does.
affect. It affects the Earth grid.
It,
Like exactly like Forrest said.
yeah, and I forget which painter who talked about like the the paintings he did that he kept in his closet changed the world,
Oh
right?
man, I don't think you ever shared that with me. That's really good.
It was like Picasso or Van Gogh or somebody, right? And or maybe Dolly. I don't know, but I'm sure there's a like it if you think of how many creative professionals out there who are perfectionists and they have all these novels and fine works of art hidden away that are affecting the world, and it's their right to keep that private. And I mean, so it's like I think fundamentally where I'm at is just wanting to encourage people to take action in their life in the way they feel is the best for them, and getting clear on that. And that's why I'm so excited about storytelling. And I think in a lot of spiritual traditions, they want to say like that you should just totally disregard the story and like be indifferent about what comes or go. I mean, yeah, you like I think cultivating a good, steady, something like Zen state where you're able to incorporate your reality as it comes, that's wonderful. But I think also we need to honor our stories and craft like conceptual architecture from why we're so miserable to what we're going to do about it, and like being honest. Because I think this comes to one of my most important insights I've found in my life is that people keep choosing negativity and awful scenarios in their life because it's familiar, and if they let go of it, they lose meaning in their life. Their life wouldn't make sense, if it, and so I think that's why we have to have this private space where we can be honest about our lives. And
And
it
even if it's with yourself talking to yourself in the form of an index card or an audio recorder,
right.
that's that counts. I mean, a lot. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's not in the category of of clinical psychology. It's in the category of I'm a strong, competent adult who takes responsibility for myself. right? It's I love seeing it in the realm of like the human potential movement of trying to figure out how cool we can be. You know, like how cool our lives could be if we start getting really serious about our lives and a lot of have a lot of fun in the process of of that work, and make sure it's fun, have a sense of humor. um but yeah, just that if you can't riff on what's going on in your life, like talk about it enough to get to the next step, you're just going to get stuck in the, oh, it sucks, right? So like what a huge reason why I'm so excited about storytelling is that it allows you to do that movement of, okay, what's next? So
Yeah, and if you need to say a prayer or to meditate or whatever, because sometimes, including myself, I can't really do it myself. One of the examples would be if I go and I'm not gonna say it happens all the time, but when I'm on the road, I go into a lot of very highly charged spiritual sites. We're talking about the ancient sites across the United States. Excuse me, and I really never know what I'm walking into in terms of the spiritual world. And so when I go into a site, what I started doing, I don't know if it was a few years ago at least, but I used to go looking for strange things, and I don't do that anymore. I'm actually interested in helping anything in the spiritual world. If you're going to be civil and decent with me, that I'd like to help you also on your path. Some of the spirits maybe have not crossed over yet. I'm not a professional in that, but I know I have friends that are. Some of the stuff might be that you're lost or you're curious or like you literally just don't know what you're doing. It could be anything. But anyway, when I go into a situation, specifically when I can feel that there is some sort of a strong presence, put it that way. Let's just say not benevolent, or it doesn't feel fantastic. The reference for me would really be the extraterrestrial intelligence. It's usually when it happens the most because it's really creepy. Believe me, it feels really weird. Even if you don't see a craft or you don't see an alien, body or anything like that, you can feel if you're sensitive enough and you got your body clear and your path clear, you're gonna feel that they're there. So sometimes I just say a prayer. I'll just ask for protection, and it's because I don't want to have to force, like looking over my shoulder. I'm asking the universe, please protect me, because I'm only trying to do good, and I'm not trying to cross trespass or anything into the spirit's realm. No, actually, I have enough courage to go in and try to understand what's going on. And you better believe that those spirits who probably not comfortable interacting with most people will come and interact with me a lot of the time in a
right.
positive way because I'm open to them and I want to help. And I make that statement before I go in there. I'm trying to help guys, or I'm just there trying to understand so that I can help in a kind of a larger scheme. If you're trying to help and you're really trying to help and you're being respectful of other people, I don't really think you can go wrong because you say, hey, I would suggest this, and maybe the person's like, nah, I don't want to. Well, then you probably need to stop talking about it. And that's the other thing in conversations with people. Respect people's space. Don't keep pressing the issue. If they don't want it, that's it. Stop. Okay, because now
Yeah,
you're being rude and disrespectful to that person. I told you I don't want to do it. You need to stop doing it, or I'm gonna cut the conversation. And I have the right to do that. Don't think the other person can't be like, yeah, don't talk to me. No, they can. You can do that. You can say that. Try to say it nice if you can, but we all have a right to be like, I don't interact with you, or I do interact with you. And there's nothing wrong with that.
right. I would add that private storytelling is a wonderful place to put all those things you'd like to say to other people, and
Yeah,
then you
right.
don't need to be burdening other people with all the things that you need to process about how you're experiencing somebody else. You can keep it in a vessel so it doesn't screw up their life because now they're sad that they disappointed you, or they're pissed off that you had an unfair expectation of them or whatever. Like, nobody has to know that you're annoyed that somebody's not taking a step in their life or whatever, right? But I think it's worthwhile doing an audio recording or writing about it and keeping it to yourself, because oftentimes you're going to learn about yourself, or you might figure out that you need to be having a different set of expectations for that person. I
Oh, definitely. Yeah, that's a big
right.
one.
I'm just
Don't
gonna.
expect. Okay. Don't
I just
expect something from someone who you know it's not going to happen. And it's
right.
having enough maturity to realize that either I'm not going to continue to engage in this anymore because I know it's not supposed to happen. I'm going to stop pressing the issue. And sometimes, unfortunately, it means that you have to cut some ties in order for
Right.
you to progress spiritually and also to respect yourself and respect the other person. Sometimes I tell someone like, man, I don't usually have to say this verbally, but if I don't remove myself from the situation right now, I'm going to say some things that are going to be very offensive. And
Right.
occasionally I actually tell that person that I'm like, look, I'm not trying to whatever, but I need to leave now. I think both of us do that, but I need to leave now. I'll talk to you later.
Right. Well, and I would even add, like, the times that you don't need to tell a story, you just need to go out for a walk or go do something other that, I mean, just go be soothed by the beauty of nature instead of being annoyed by somebody.
Oh yeah.
So, right.
Well,
I what was that?
well, the topic about the barefoot walking too. I mean, there is actually science behind this as well. It's not just like a fad or like a new age or hippie or whatever people want to refer to it as. No, it's not at all. I mean, it can be if you want it to be, but you're literally grounding your body. And if you have, we've talked about this a lot for us, but if you have excess energy that is kind of pent up inside your body, especially if it's negative or
Right.
if it's harming you, it will often discharge itself spontaneously into the ground because the earth wants to help us, guys. I mean, we need to
Right.
understand that. And the more you're in sync with that, the more it's going to actually assist you. I've had
Right.
times where even in trees as well, like making contact with a tree, they will take the negative energy. And it's astonishing. I mean, I of course I believe the entire kingdom of life is conscious. That's something people understand about me if you know me even for 10 minutes, including
Right.
things like I would say even mineral consciousness would include things like rocks and things like that. And you never know
Me.
who's hanging out inside the rocks. Yeah, you too,
Yeah.
Forrest, right?
I would
So
describe myself as a radical animist.
there you go. There you go. And of course the animism is some of the really the first, I guess, religion. It's not doesn't have to be a religion, but the basis of some of the first religions on the planet, including some of like the early pagan traditions and things, and shamanism and all that, and Native American traditions. It's just real. It's acknowledging and realizing that everything is conscious. That it's not. They're not all equivalent necessarily to how the human brain works. But I'll just, here's a good example. I can sit in a room for literally like 5 hours and barely move, and I'm totally fine, and I enjoy that experience. And some people don't get that. Oh, let's take an example from the animal kingdom. It's funny we've talked about this one. I know because I remember it multiple times. But how about a frog? I'm taking a walk. Okay, I see a frog, and I'll actually get down and I'll talk to him, man. And I'll give him my love and hope he's having a good day. And you better believe that changes the grid in a very positive way. Anytime you're talking positive words to anything at all, even if it's the air, it changes the grid in a positive way. Guess what?
Right.
I come back 5 hours later. He's still in the same spot, the exact same spot. Okay, so
Yeah.
we have a lot to learn from that because he didn't look upset to me. He looks
Yeah.
pretty content. So why can't we do that? We should be able to, in fact.
Yeah, and I guess where I'm at is like the more time you can spend outdoors, the better. I mean, if you could, if anybody listening to this, like if you can be outside for like an hour every day, be great. I mean, if you're not doing that already, it'll probably change your life.
Well, you know what, Forrest? I think you're totally right, and I want to give two examples of that myself. And this is you're right, man. Extremely important. You don't have to do a whole lot else, even if you're not making other big changes. That is one that I would say that you should try to make. And
Right.
there's many reasons why. One is fresh air. Hopefully, you live somewhere or you can get somewhere where there's cleaner air. But the other one is to let the earth assist you. You know, it will take that some of that burden from you naturally, just by going. If you walk into a forest, and it could be the aroma from the flowers on the trees. It could be from the grass that was freshly cut. It could be anything. It could be the ladybug that lands on your shirt. And so, and I'm open to any of those experiences every time I go for a walk, and there's always a positive experience. But what I want to say is that here's a good example, just to show people that anything's possible. Really, no matter where you live, that's where I want to go with this, even if you're in a cold climate. When I lived in Alaska, my first year in Alaska, I spent 13 months there. It was 2011. And I had friends encourage me. They said, yeah, I know it's cold. And cold, I mean, it's probably beyond cold for most people. But still, I mean, it would be, I mean, my limit kind of for Fahrenheit is about 10 degrees Fahrenheit. If it gets in single digits, man, I really don't want to go outside. But I have talked to people who live in Fairbanks, Alaska. I didn't. I lived on the coast in Alaska. And I'm not kidding, man. They go out -20. They go for a run, and they have their fur-lined hoods and everything, and they have the proper gear on. You don't do it, with not. That's foolish, and you kill yourself. It's dangerous. But they have the proper tools, and they go out and they run for like 45 minutes. And like
Yeah.
I can't even understand that. You have something in front of your mouth, to protect you from breathing in like ridiculously cold air. But they do it. There's a lot of people do it up there, and in the
Right.
tundra in Siberia and stuff, we don't know how people go through. It's their lifestyle for them. But anyway,
Right.
what I did do for sure is that I think even when it was in the teens for me, maybe like 15 and up, 15 degrees Fahrenheit and up, I actually did go for a walk, and I put on, oh man, I had like 6 layers on, and including full thermals, top and bottom, and I had a downline jacket, with actual down in it,
Yeah.
and I had a hood on that, and then I had like sweatshirt and another jacket underneath that. And guess what? I was fine. I had wool socks on. I had everything I needed. But the key is that you need to prepare. And he was saying that my friend was saying, because he had been up there for many winters, he said during the dark days, he's like, trust me, just get outside a little bit every day, and it's going to help you a lot. And it did. And then after the winter solstice, which of course we just went through, which is the shortest day of the year in the northern hemisphere, it's actually extremely encouraging because and I've even well, we're about almost 10 days out from the solstice right now. And when I got up today and I was looking outside, I'm like, yeah, actually it's staying lighter a little bit later. It's barely noticeable, but the
Yeah.
quality of the light changes. You can see that it's stronger. The sun is getting higher in the sky, and you can get excited about that. In fact, that's what a lot of the cultures did in Europe, in say pagan Europe or pre-pagan Europe even, and
Right.
they were outside and they were, why they were celebrating? Because it's a big deal and it's exciting. It's
I
exciting
know.
because you're getting more energy coming in to the planet, and it's helping you. So that's totally true, man. And then what was the other one I was going to say about that getting outside? Oh yeah, the other one was that I haven't done it for a while. I probably should start. It'd be good. But I used to go out for walks like half an hour after dinner, after I had digested a little bit. And I go out for half an hour, 45 minutes. And I had that thing that I would do every night. And I looked forward to it, and it kept my thoughts in line too. And it just kept me kind of feeling like kind of more balanced. And to have that, it's not necessarily the routine. It can be for some people. Just the fact though that I was, you're moving your body and you're breathing clean air, and you get to see plant life. You get to see green around you, especially if it's not the wintertime. You get to see animals running around. That's what life's about, I think. Enjoying with the natural world. And there's so many ways to do that. Maybe you like the beach. Maybe you like the mountains. It could be the forest, the stream, the lake, whatever it is for you. There's something there for everyone. We just got to find what it is,
Totally.
I mean, right now where I am, there's no leaves on the trees, the deciduous area. I mean, it doesn't look phenomenal, but I'll tell you what did look phenomenal is when the sun was setting, I could see it much lower on the horizon. It was coming through the trees, and it was like painting the forest, because you can't see that in the summer because there's leaves on the trees.
Right. Yeah, I guess where I'm at is I love nature, whatever it is. It's raining. It's raining right now, and I'm trying to figure out whether I should take 2 minutes and relocate indoors, or if I should tough it out. And the only reason why I don't want to tough it out is not for me, but it's for the books that I have underneath the phone. I don't want them to get too wet.
Okay. You want to just pause your video for us, and I'll just talk for a little bit.
I'm just gonna pause the mic and the cam, and I'm gonna relocate to where I was when we talked the other day.
Okay. Sounds good, man.
It'll be like 2 minutes.
Okay. Well, I'll just have a little story time then.
Okay, cool.
All right, guys. So while Forrest is relocating for a minute, this is a good opportunity just to tell you quickly kind of about what I did this summer. And like I was saying, 2022, I was on the road for 100 days. Most of it was camping, and I did the entire Mormon Trail, which is, one of the great American supernatural stories. It's truly absolutely amazing to be able to go to these sites. I've read most of the Mormon or the LDS text. LDS stands for Latter-day Saints. That's really what they refer to themselves to as LDS, or saints. And anyway, I did the whole trail because I wanted to understand what the credibility of the story looked like. And that's also good science, really going into that area and understanding, okay, this is what people claim happened here. Let me see what I think about what happened here. But let me be open to other people's stories. Let me read the texts that supports this location. And that's how I go about all the research I do. But anyway, I did that last summer, and I kind of finished on the Pacific Northwest coast. And so I stayed there for a while. And then this past summer, I got on the road on June 1st, and I spent some time. I went through, Eastern Washington. I went down through Idaho, Craters of the Moon National Monument. That was phenomenal. If people haven't heard of that or been there, actually a very peaceful place. I was surprised about that. And it's, it's all formerly volcanic. It's amazing. There's lava beds everywhere, dried lava. Then I went down through Utah. So I saw a bunch of my friends in Salt Lake City. I spent a few days there. And then my primary research happened in Arizona and New Mexico, and I was there for about, I guess, a month and a half. Yeah, it was about a month and a half, maybe a month, a little over a month. And then I had to get over to Arkansas to continue to start a new project there. And so I went through the panhandle of Texas. It was cool to be back in Texas because it's, one of my longest time homes. It's very interesting. It has a very specific aroma when you cross, and I'm not kidding, when you cross that state line. Texas has a very specific smell to it. And I mean, it's largely because of the plants, but it's also has to do with air movement, humidity levels, things of that nature. Went over to Arkansas, worked on a project there for about a week, and then I went up to Illinois to see some more of my LDS friends in a town called Nauvoo, Illinois. I'd highly recommend people go to see that. There's what's called the British pageant and the Nauvoo pageant. It tells the story of the saints, the LDS or Mormon saints, through the history of how that happened, starting in the 1800s, that whole story. There's music and dance, and people are very friendly, and you get to learn about the story and a little bit about Joseph Smith. It's really phenomenal. So I did that, and then I cut back through Iowa. I actually finished the small segment of the Mormon Trail that I had not had time to do the year before. because it was kind of on like majorly secondary roads, so I really had to go out of my way to get down to that segment. And I didn't have time last summer. I took the interstate through Iowa last summer. But this is southern Iowa, and you get to learn about how the Saints were delayed because of these very, very swampy conditions that they met. It was they had to forcibly leave Nauvoo really in the heart of winter, and by the time they got to like I guess about central Iowa, it actually things kind of started to move towards spring, and there was melting that was happening, and then that made seriously difficult conditions, mostly because of the standing water and the mud, and it really delayed them. And then they were not able to get to Salt Lake City until the following year because it was too late in the season. That's the story with Iowa, with the Mormon Trail. I went down through western Nebraska and western Kansas. It's very peaceful out there. Just nice to have kind of quiet, and you really don't see too many people out there. The very kind of slow pace of life. It was nice to see that. And then I came back through Texas, across through Oklahoma, and back into sort of the western side of Texas. And I spent another month and a half. No, excuse me, it was longer. It was 2 months. Spent 2 months, and I did continue my research in Texas. And then I finally ended my trip. So it was a very, very, very long trip. It was 4.5 months. I didn't want to do it that long, but again, that's where the signals are coming from. And, my heart is set straight. And if I'm being told that's what I need to do for my benefit and for the mostly the benefit of the world, to be completely honest with you guys. Sometimes I do things that I don't feel like doing because I'm trying to assist with the knowledge and trying to help people understand where we come from and hopefully where we're going. Anyway, welcome back, Forrest. Appreciate it.
Of course. I was listening to your story in the interim, even though I knew a lot of it. Cool.
Exactly. Yeah, it was an amazing trip. I mean, just the things that you learn on the road and trying to be open to different situations and information is absolutely, of course, vital when you're trying to piece a story together. Of course, one of my main focuses right now is ancient America, and I'm trying to do a much better job than I've seen in compiling all of the information that's available. I'm a true scientist, guys. If you know that about me, it's one of the most important things to understand. I have an idea of what I think it is, or maybe even what I'd like it to be. But I'm wrong quite a bit, to be honest with you. I put my hypothesis out there. I go into the situation. Oh, I was wrong. Here's a good example, really fast, and then we'll get back to the conversation for us. But Chaco Canyon, New Mexico. It was supposed to be kind of the center site for the Puebloan native culture. And, it was a large area, and they were supposed to have traded there and had big ceremonies. And that's where Pueblo Bonito is. It's a very, very impressive structure. It's like a 4-story structure. It was aligned to solstices and equinoxes. And, it's just amazingly built, all out of stone, of course. And there's all kinds of labyrinth of rooms and just amazing doorways. It's phenomenal to see this. Well, I get into this valley, and I was assuming, since it was sort of supposed to be the meeting point for all these cultures in the Southwest, I said, well, they must have picked it because the energy is really positive. It's a really, really phenomenally positive place to be. Well, I get in there, and guess what? I was wrong, because I felt agitation, and I felt like there was lots of difficulty that happened. I feel like battles were fought there. I feel like a lot of people lost their lives. And then I found out later on that supposedly, and I didn't have a chance to get up on top of the mesa, I was in the valley, but supposedly towards the end of this time, one of the leaders or the rulers was engaged in some kind of black magic or something. And he was trying to gamble with people and, do things for selfish reasons, but it wasn't all clean, kind of good-hearted things that happened there. And I felt it the whole time. I could not shake it. I was okay, but there's also, I felt there's probably lots of ghosts there as well. I would say definitely lots of ghosts there through some of the structures. We were being respectful of each other, but, it really, to understand why you're feeling the way you are, by the way, you usually can't feel that unless you have a clean slate. So it's the same thing that we've talked about in the beginning. You have to clear your mind. You have to physiologically clear your body, which, of course, I talk about all the time with Eastern medicine. And then when you go into the situation, oh yeah, I can feel that now because everything's cleared out of the way. And it's the key for all the components of life, you know, for your betterment, for other people's betterment, for knowledge. So in any case, yeah, but where should we go now, Forrest? We got about half an hour. I've got a few notes that we could go over, unless you got something immediately that you're thinking about.
Well, just where I wanted to jump in was talking about the intersection between like intuitive studies, the intuitive arts. Some even might refer to shamanic practice or some sort of shamanic perception and storytelling, because really historically all that goes hand in hand. And I just wanted to echo what you're saying. I mean, I think it's really appropriate that you're talking about the journey you've been on this year in this interview, because that's what I'm talking about. I mean, you're really telling your story and integrating it and engaging in research as a, uh, I mean, you're I consider you a metaphysical researcher, right? And so whatever anybody who might be listening to this, whatever you do, whatever you want to get involved with in life, I think a lot of people get stuck at the conceptual stage. And I think it's because they don't listen to themselves. Like what we were talking about earlier, the people may even have friends with whom they talk and they keep telling the same story, or you keep telling the same story to yourself, and it's, if you feel stuck in life, examine your story. And that's what I did. And for a long time I was feeling like i I was blocked, right? I was blocked from doing what I should have done, and just tell a more intelligent story, Forrest. I'm talking to myself. Tell an intelligent story about what I could do instead. And this is what I've come up with, is this idea of tiger stories, is being present for interested people to be bringing my unique gifts to market in terms of what I'm interested in, what I'm passionate about. And for me, it's storytelling and creativity. I mean, this is just one example of what anyone could be using these kind of tools to figure out. Like, maybe you need to figure out, you need to relocate in order to do what you want to do. Maybe you're going to figure out that you need to be practicing a new skill, right? I mean, that's anyway. Where do we go from here talking about creativity?
Well, I agree with that, Forrest. I mean, I think to help people brainstorm things and just organize their thoughts is incredibly helpful. Now, what I find also very helpful is, or important rather, is that the setting has to be right. So if you go into a clinical setting, you know, and I'm not saying don't do this. If you need it, absolutely go for it. But if you're gonna go see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or whatever avenue you want to try first, or maybe not even first, whatever, sure, give it a shot. But for me, I like a very low or a no pressure situation where it just feels like a conversation. I don't know if you want to talk about, if you know where I'm going with that, Forrest, in terms of if you want to bring that up. If you do, feel free. But I like it just to be like a dialogue, just like, yeah, tell me what's going on, man. If I can help you, let me know. And the person, I find you feel more relaxed and more comfortable. You can clear your head easier. I'd like to see more of that happening in the future, to be quite honest, because Like someone comes in and, I've heard many stories. People feel like they're being judged by the psychiatrist or the psychologist or whatever. You feel like they're totally out of touch. They're looking at their watch or waiting for the session to end. You can see them looking at the clock. I mean, come on. They just want their money and they want to get out. Yeah, I don't care about that. I care about helping people. And we need to help each other in more effective ways. And if it doesn't work for them to be in a clinical setting, I'd like to see kind of this type of a style moving into the future where the person, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to judge you. If you're going to hurt someone, yeah, I don't know if I can't necessarily say nothing about that, depending on what it is. But apart from that, like, yeah, tell me what's going on. You can tell me about the issues, the fears, the concerns, the direction you're trying to take in your life. Me, for one, all I'm going to do is try to support the mission. And what people have to understand too is that my mission is not the same as Forrest's mission necessarily is not the same as everyone else's mission, and we have to honor that in each other and help support each other where we're going or on our path, which again is going to be different almost for everyone. And that's the kind of support I want to see. And also, before I forget, because I've been meaning to say this, one of the things that's always irritated me about let's say the current state of education, I guess, especially in the formative years, I would say, if you're trying to be a doctor, yeah, of course you got to go to medical school. I mean, if you're trying to practice Western medicine, I totally get that, and that's going to help. That's going to be, you want that. You want people that are qualified in specialty thing, or like an architect. Yeah, you need to know building loads and then distribution, of course. Otherwise it's going to collapse. But my big thing is that everyone works at a different pace. There's no right pace. We need to get that across to people. It's not like, oh, because I go slower, there's something wrong. No, there's not. Something maybe you want to go at the faster pace. I don't, and I'm perfectly happy doing it at the pace I do it. Sometimes I'm not ready to make a move because I don't have enough information. That's one of the reasons I might be going slower sometimes. Sometimes I'm lightning fast because I know I have a clear road and just saying, yeah, just you got a green light, you can go ahead and finish what you're doing. So it's always situational, in my opinion, and I think we need to support people in that. And I mean, I remember one of the things when I was young and going to in elementary school or even middle school or something. It's like, yeah, your project's due on Tuesday or whatever, and I'm like, yeah, well, I had a little bit of a hang up. I got some stuff that came up. Maybe it was a family thing that came up, or maybe I had another class I had to really finish something for. And I don't remember always how that concluded, but the general idea is that you have to turn it in when it's due, and I get that. And I get we live in a world that values progress and you got to be on time. And I value most of that most of the time. But in certain things, I think it's like kind of just make sure you do the best job. It might need a little more time. And I think if we had a world that was trying to move a little bit more towards that, I think we'd all be a lot happier.
Yeah, right. I think
To
a
be
huge
accommodating.
right. I think a huge part of it is the current education system doesn't help people figure out what their unique gift is, their inner passion. That's not the agenda. The purpose of education is to help you be capable of existing in a job environment where there's expectations from your employer, and some people are going to continue choosing that option as a means to support themselves, and I don't fault you for that. That there's a lot of great jobs out there and a lot of great employers out there, and you may have invested a lot of time in that sort of context, and you may have already succeeded really well in that kind of context, but maybe you want to change, or maybe that's not your story. you know maybe
Right.
you're somebody who you're not going to do well in a job context, and you need to figure out how to do something independently and make your own opportunity. And that's where I think increasingly way more people are at is it's a It's a matter of whether or not you can have dignity in your life, in terms of whether you can identify your unique gifts, get clear, and have this vessel of private storytelling to tinker with what it's going to be, and be really clear with yourself, and then start bringing it to market. And the first thing you're probably going to find is that there's nobody interested, and you got to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to adjust it so it's going to be more connecting with what people need, right? And you know how to market it, how to whatever. But like, it's I the the service I'm offering is recognizing that if you're going to do this kind of work with yourself, it might be really demoralizing once you try to bring it to other people's attention. And you need somebody who knows that you're doing really important work, because oftentimes we're surrounded by people who don't want us to change. You know,
Yeah, that's
they
true.
yeah, they're comfortable with the problems we have in our life, and we're a predictable person who's dysfunctional in the various ways we're dysfunctional, and their life makes sense because we're held back, because we're holding ourselves back, because we haven't taken the time to be like, ah, is this really what I want? I saw a really lovely bumper sticker yesterday, and it said, "Joy is your birthright."
Wow, that's a good one.
Joy is your birthright. And I think I looked it up online later and posted it to social media, just because it's, yeah, it, wow, like, and well,
Forrest,
anyway,
if you order two of those, I'll put one on my car.
cool, good. I'll look into it. Yeah, it's it. Yeah, in terms of a little what we were talking about earlier with like the clinical setting, and like I want to be really clear. I have no licensure. This is in the realm of life coaching. It's in the realm of consulting. It's in the realm of, I'm really enthusiastic about creativity. I'm really enthusiastic about storytelling, and I have a really unique vantage point on it all. And I'm just representing myself as me, Forrest Little, and I'm calling my project Tiger Stories because I think it's a cool name that is really meaningful to me. In part, it's referring to like a shamanic level inspiration from tigers, but it's also, I really love Calvin and Hobbes. I know I was mentioning this to you, but this story of Calvin and Hobbes, Calvin has his pet tiger, Hobbes, or his, I guess his, I should say his friend, the tiger Hobbes. And some people would say Calvin is just pretending, but no, it's all real. And it's this opportunity we have. We can really befriend our life, and be on good terms with everything going on in our life, and be passionate about our story, and be fascinated. And I love the example of Calvin and Hobbes, because I think we this is also in a lot of different spiritual traditions. We really need to become more like children in our sense of awe and enthusiasm for life. And it just so happens that there's all these sad parts of our life and difficult parts of our life too that we gotta process. And I think it's lovely to do that in private. And in terms of comparing this to counseling psychology, I had undergraduate level training in counseling psychology from the Evergreen State College. I graduated from Evergreen in 2011. I never went to grad school.
And
And
that's in Olympia, Washington, for anyone who wants to know.
yeah,
Beautiful, beautiful state.
it's very beautiful. I'm currently located in Port Townsend, Washington, and that's my hometown. And I love working in person with people, but I'm happy to work over the phone or over video. But in terms of like my stance on counseling psychology, what I say is if that's working for you, keep at it, right? And if you're wanting something else that's more about taking ownership of your life as a competent adult, an aspiring competent adult who really wants an interesting life, that's what I'm excited about. So um, what else about creativity do you think is worth touching on here?
Well, I'm going to post all your links too, of course, Forrest, and you can tell people at the end as well. But the thing is that, and I said at the beginning, I mean, Forrest is one of the most creative people I've ever met in my entire life. I'm consistently impressed, and obviously I'm a highly creative person myself. And the thing about this is, you go through his website, you're going to see some of his projects, and you have the YouTube channel up as well, right, Forrest?
I got the
Um,
YouTube Substack.
Okay, and the thing about that is that if you want to watch one of Forrest's videos and how he kind of navigates through his stories that he tells, a lot of them is actually while you're on a walk, and it's beautiful because you can see the scenery and everything, and it feels like clean and invigorating. It's a great kind of setting, and so definitely go over check that out. And then you also have a bunch of collages that you have up on your website, which are really phenomenal in terms of connecting. What I would say is subtly connecting ideas that you don't realize everything that's there until you really think about it. But there's things I love it, man. First, you know how entertained I am by you on a constant basis. But there's things. They're sitting right next to each other, and it's like, I don't wonder why. I generally know why you put them next to each other because I know you really well. But it's cool because it's like a treasure hunt that you never know what you're going to find, and he tucks a bunch of things kind of everywhere in there. It's actually really good mental stimulation as well, if you're even looking for that, just to kind of get your mind processing things on a different kind of level. So the proof really is really in the pudding here, and Forrest has the stuff available for you to see and to watch, and I would really, really highly encourage going to check that out. And so when we talk about creativity, we're all creative at different levels in different arenas. I personally think that the Forrest level of creativity is at a much higher echelon. And that's one of the reasons I'm recommending in particular to go check out his work, because it's going to be stimulating in ways that you don't even realize yet. And you might not even realize it until weeks down the road. Just to be around that is really inspirational. Just to be able to be in that, I think we talk about this too, Forrest, is just to be in that setting of people who are highly creative. It, even if you're not going to necessarily do a project, it's like a very positive thing for the human mind to experience something like that, or to be part of something like that. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. But the thing is to be around it is really helpful. And for me, I mean, it's one of the things really big for me is, I mentioned it before, is dance. I love being around dancers. It is so impressive to me, man. The level of physical stamina that you have to have, coordination, you have to be on time with the music, the choreography, all of this stuff. it's like a super art to me. So that's one of the places I find my inspiration in something that I don't do myself. But just the fact that I was around it made me a better person because of how the level of quality that that I see during those performances. It makes me happy. It makes me hopeful also for humanity. And I think we've really got this in terms of the new generations coming up. We need to have a different kind of support system, in my opinion. We need to have a different kind of educational style. One of the things that I will always remember when I was in high school, I went to Washington, D.C., and we had a program where we got to ask. I don't know if I ever told you about this part of this, Forrest, but we got to ask people, let's say notable speakers, people who were really highly skilled in their field. They would talk for 20 minutes up on stage. And then everyone in the audience, we'd all be encouraged to get up to the microphone. They had a microphone on a stand like in the audience. And whoever wanted to ask a question or make a comment could actually just get up to the microphone and ask that person directly a question. And I felt so invigorated, like, I felt like we were a part of something. We got to see a professional who's really good at what they do, and it was inspiring for everyone. We need more of that stuff, this uplifting things that build each other up. And so that's the future I envision, is that, yeah, we're all different. I think that's really beautiful. But if you see something, this is one of my biggest statements. I make a lot. I don't know if I make a lot of my shows, but I do believe this very strongly. If you see someone doing a good job, support them. Seriously. And if you can support them financially, that's really helpful to them as well. But just to have positive words and kind words for them, or to give them a compliment, that's how we bring the world forward, guys. You have to be there for each other. And if you see a good job, compliment the person. Just have the courage. Just go up, and you have no idea what that's going to make them feel. What is it? The other day, I don't even remember. I don't remember what it was. I don't even remember who it was, to be honest with you. But someone says something to me about something to do with the style that I do something in is really, really helpful, and it's that I was doing a really good job or something like that. I hadn't heard those words directly in months. Like, it might have been 4 or 5 months that went by, and I don't need that personally. But I'm just saying, like, I realized how fantastic it is to hear that, because it's just, and we need to be doing more of that, is what I'm trying to suggest.
Yeah, I agree. That's one of the things that I find to be most important in my service I'm offering is comprehending what your value is and telling you what I see, and we can compare notes about how do you see what you're offering, how do I see what you're offering, right? And the spirit of getting up on stage and asking a question to somebody that you really admire, I got that in, especially in my philosophy classes. It's, um, it was so cool to be able to like carefully articulate a question I had to the philosophy professor or to another student, and be able to have a dialogue that, oh, well, there's this aspect of what we're talking about and this and this and this, and how does that all fit with the way you see it? And then it's so satisfying to have a response. And I think what you're looking for with hoping to see more of that in the world, I'm really passionate about offering that kind of thing of not only can you be crafting your own story in a way that's presentable to share with other people, but also having that experience with yourself just in private as well. Like, just, okay, how can we get really specific about what is at stake in our lives, and making it accessible, and having it be totally without the shame and the judgment and the guilt. And it's just, well, it's this is life, it's alive. But
Yeah. Yeah, and like Forrest was saying before too, is that we all need an ear to be able to feel fostered and supported by. And you're right. I mean, a lot of people, for whatever reason, and I find it to be very perverse. I mean, I'll be honest, but don't want other people to do well, or they don't want other people to succeed. Then you know what? Even if I'm having a total crap day, okay, it happens occasionally. I always want to see Forrest do well, or even if he calls me or I'm like, man, I'm not feeling well, but like, yeah, tell me about your life and your story. I'm happy to hear from him. And
yeah,
we need to understand that is that like just because of how you feel, it really should not be affecting who you support. That's an element of maturity, I think, and just being a mature and respectful human and being able to acknowledge good things when you see it is it's not about how I'm feeling today. It doesn't change what I believe in. And I find that happens a lot is that, and I think it's a real problem is that you see people, oh, I'm not feeling good today. So today I don't believe in this. Man, you're going to get in trouble. You're really going to get in trouble doing that kind of thing. And
yeah,
also I think with the spiritual path, and I also believe you usually end up incurring a lot of karma when, I fully believe in karma. People know me, know that it's like the universe, I think, ultimately doesn't want to see you say, I'm going to do whatever I want without any moral compass and it'll be okay in the end. I'm not so sure the universe would agree with that. And, we won't know until, I guess, we pass or, well, sometimes you do see it beforehand, but just because we don't know, it doesn't mean the universe doesn't know what it's doing. And I would encourage people to have more respect for the big plan because I believe it does know what it's doing, and it's up to us to figure out, in my opinion, spend a lot of my time doing this to figure out, why am I down here right now? What is the whole point? What am I trying to accomplish? What are we all going through this for? Why does it have to be so difficult sometimes? I think there is a reason. There's in fact very specific reasons, in my opinion. And instead of just saying, oh, this is too difficult, I don't want to deal with this, what I say is, yeah, it's tough, but like actually we can figure it out. And hey, people think I have lofty claims. That's fine with me. I'm always very adamant about that statement. We can figure out what's going on. We really can. You got to try a lot harder, or we need to find people who do a good job and then support those people in their endeavors. Like if it's not something you think you can do, then for goodness sake, support the person who you think is doing the best at that job. And that's what they need a resource to all of humanity. More support they have, the easier it is for them to do what they're doing. So
right.
that's a kind of, that's a kind of clear-headed thought process when I talk about things. I think it's important to be able to connect the dots. I think there are better ways of doing things. But anyway, to close that point really quickly, I think Forrest is right, is that a lot of us probably might not actually have this. Someone who is like really in your corner. It's like, man, I see what you're doing. You're doing a great job. I'm very impressed, and I will always openly tell people that whatever the function is or whatever the field is, and support them and be like, man, I really support you. I can't wait to hear your new song or whatever you're doing or your new piece of art. I can't wait to see it. And I'm not lying. I'm telling the truth. I see that pop up on my feed and I smile immediately. Actually, today, Forrest, remember that guy I sent you, the musician that I was really impressed with from, I think he was on The Voice, the NBC program, The Voice, 2 seasons ago or maybe last season. I see a lot of people, they're decent. They don't really do anything for me. This one guy gets up there and I was like, wow, this is like actually affecting me. And, I'm not gonna say I'm surprised. I'm open to anything like that, someone doing a good job, but he popped up on my news feed today on Instagram. He was doing a new song. Same thing, man. I listened to it like 3 times. And that's a kind of, and I said, guess what I did? You know this because I told you. I sent him a message. I sent him a direct message on Instagram saying, dude, you're doing an awesome job. And I'm really impressed and keep it up and I will follow what you're doing. I love it. Thank you. Thank you for inspiring me and making me happy today. I don't think twice. I send the message as fast as I can, and that goes for everyone. I always reach out to people. I never know what the response is going to be. Sometimes we become friends. Sometimes they don't answer. Sometimes they do answer with a couple words. Whatever, it doesn't matter because I'm doing something positive, and it's changing their life. It's making them feel supported and happy. And I'm not doing it to make myself feel good, but I feel great too, of course. How can you feel bad if you're saying, great job, I love what you did? How can that destroy my day by saying that? No, I can't.
Right. Yeah, I think to echo what you're saying, and this is, I think, probably a really lovely point to end on, is if you get in touch with your own creativity, you figure out what you're bringing to the table, and that fills you with dignity, then you can be somebody who's sharing your creativity with other people in a community, and you got to start developing your community. And so sometimes it's sending those messages to people you're supporting, and then they get to hear what you're up to, and we get to develop our identity, being like a positive identity in a community of creative people. And wow, isn't that the most powerful thing in the world that we need right now more than anything on the planet, right?
Oh yeah, we need that community big time, and you're right, Forrest. That's one of the things that's really lacking. And I'll just speak from my own perspective. In my opinion, in America, the United States of America is in general, is this lack of community. People are so lonely, and like you can have a bunch of people around you, and you still feel like you're alone, or you can be at these events or whatever, and it's because of I mean, first of all, the United States it's a big melting pot of cultures from all around the world. That's true, and I'm thankful for that. A lot of people are thankful for that, but it's not as much. Doesn't have as distinctive of a culture as, say, if you went to a European country and most people have been there for like thousands of years. Yeah, that's different than coming here where people have only been here for 100, 200 years. Their families, immigrated over. And so it makes this interesting culture, or in some cases, lack of culture. I think there's so many great things out there. You just got to find your niche. And there's groups that are out there for everyone. But to be part of a community and to feel heard, like you and me have talked a lot about this, Forrest, just feel like someone's actually like kind of understanding what you're saying. It cannot overstate how important that is to have someone who's actually going to get through to you, or you feel like, yeah, they're actually listening to me. And like, I can't believe some of these people, man, it's been years since they had someone actually listen to them like that. Changes their life, like one conversation. Just not to be dismissive of everyone. Be like, yeah, tell me what you want to share.
Right.
Great. Okay. Do you have any last couple things you want to say, Forrest? Tell people. Well, here, let me. I'll end with you. So everyone who knows my show and my information, you guys know where to find me. Obviously, if you found this, all of the information that you need is it's going to be under the video. Everything is posted down there. And then, of course, you might have found me on Facebook too, but my Facebook page is under Dave Petrella. My Instagram page is Dave Petrella12. And then my YouTube page, just click on my picture. You can subscribe if you want to. I try to put out a new podcast, like at least once a month for everyone. And of course, I offer full astrology, tropical astrology. It's also called Western astrology. This is primarily focused on birth charts and understanding the positioning of the planets, what that means for you, for your personality, for your propensities, even for the physical body, how to take action in terms of fulfillment and your relationships, loving relationships, all kinds of things. It's all in the birth chart. You find everything in that, and it's really the essential place to start from if you want to bounce off and continue with astrology in the future. So anyone who's interested in that, send me a message. Generally charged by the hour. Let me know. I'm happy to help you. I've also got general spiritual guidance. Name whatever topic you want. I'm happy to talk about it with you. And principles of Eastern medicine, which is primarily about fasting and health tips, according to what I would say are the real principles of medicine. And I have a lot to back that up. I can send you guys the details more if you want. Let me message. I'm happy to help you guys. Forrest, over to you.
You've been listening to Forrest Little. I'm offering independent story coaching called Tiger Stories. I am on Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn, and probably the easiest way for anybody watching this will be to find me on Dave's friends list, either on Instagram or Facebook. And easiest way to contact me actually is just call me up 360 774 1540. 360-774-1540. I'm in Port Townsend. That's my phone. Call me up. Introduce yourself. I'd love it. And I charge by the hour, and I'm happy to have like a half-hour conversation to figure out whether we want to be working with each other. And if we don't, that's great too. And I hope we can point each other in the right direction of some cool information. So I appreciate your time checking this out. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Forrest. I really appreciate it. I know it's been a long time coming, and I've been excited to have you on for a while. I'm finally glad we made it happen. Yeah, so that's it, guys. I'll put all the links below the video here for the YouTube video. Everything's going to be listed down there, all where you can find Forrest, where you can find me. And I will be back in touch with everyone in, I don't know, it's probably only about 2 weeks. I've got another show coming up in January. This one's going to be more related to Oak Island, which everyone knows how much investment I have in that. Whether, it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. I would have loved to put a material on the show. It was very good quality information, very well supported. But that's fine. But I'm still invested in it, at least somewhat, and I'm interested in seeing success. And again, even if it's not me, or if I'm not responsible for it, I want to see people succeed. And so that's a good message to leave it off on. And we'll see you guys next time. And please contact Forrest if you feel that he can do something for you. Definitely check out his page because it's awesome. I mean, the level of art and work is phenomenal. And of course, continue to watch my material if you guys are interested. And I will always be bringing quality material and actually fair perspective. And I know a lot of people claim that, say the news sources. I'm not going to name anything, but no, it is very fair. And I try to be as objective as possible. So Forrest, thank you again. And thank you guys for watching, and we will see you next time.